New Zealand. 2 islands at the edge of the Pacific. Glaciers, fjords, volcanoes, forests so dense the sunlight doesn't reach the ground. The last large landmass on Earth to be settled by humans. Maori navigators arrived roughly 700 years ago. Europeans followed 5 centuries later. In geological terms, New Zealand is an infant in terms of what it has managed to accumulate in that short time. Legends, disappearances, creatures, places that don't behave the way places should. It punches considerably above its weight. Today, 8 mysteries from the islands that the tourism posters don't mention. The Waitomo cave system on the North Island is famous for its glowworm grottos. Tourists float through on boats in the dark, looking up at thousands of bioluminescent larvae coating the ceiling. A living galaxy underground. What the tourist experience doesn't cover is the Maori relationship with these caves, which predates European discovery by centuries. For the local Tainui people, Waitomo was a place of profound spiritual significance and profound danger. The caves were considered a threshold between the world of the living and something else entirely. Entering without the correct knowledge was considered genuinely hazardous. The oral traditions describe a presence within the deepest sections that is not the glowworms and not the water, something the earliest Maori explorers encountered and chose not to disturb. The cave system extends far beyond the tourist route. Cavers who have pushed into the unmapped sections describe a quality of silence in the deeper chambers that feels, in their words, occupied. The moa was a giant flightless bird, the largest species standing over 3 meters tall. New Zealand had 9 species. When Maori arrived, the moa were still there. Within 2 centuries, every species was gone. Alongside the moa, something else disappeared. The Haast's eagle, the largest eagle that ever lived, a wingspan of up to 3 meters. Talons the size of a tiger's claws. It hunted moa exclusively, and when the moa went, the eagle went with it. What is harder to explain are the Maori oral traditions describing an enormous bird called te hokioi, still being encountered after the moa disappeared. After the Haast's eagle should have been gone. Described as a massive black and white bird that appeared without warning, took large animals, and vanished. The last confirmed Haast's eagle specimen dates to around 1400. The accounts of te hokioi continue for centuries beyond that. What they were seeing has never been determined. Lake Wakatipu in the South Island's Queenstown region is one of New Zealand's most dramatic landscapes. A long Z-shaped lake surrounded by mountains with water so cold and clear it looks unreal. It is also a lake that breathes. The water level rises and falls approximately every 5 minutes. Scientists call it a seiche, a standing wave caused by atmospheric pressure acting on the lake's unusual shape. The physics are understood. The Maori explanation is older. According to local legend, the lake was formed when a giant was set alight while sleeping in a valley, burning down into the earth. The water filled the impression, and the rise and fall of the water every 5 minutes is his heartbeat. Still beating, still present beneath the surface. What makes this worth pausing on is not its poetry, but its observation. The Maori recorded the rhythmic movement of the lake's surface centuries before European scientists formally documented it. Cape Reinga is the northernmost point of New Zealand, a narrow headland where the Tasman Sea and the Pacific Ocean collide in visible lines of turbulent current. There is a lighthouse. There is an ancient Pohutukawa tree clinging to the cliff edge, estimated to be over 800 years old. In Maori cosmology, Cape Reinga is where spirits leave New Zealand. The word Reinga means underworld. The Pohutukawa is the point of departure. Spirits descend its roots into the sea and begin the journey to Hawaii, the ancestral homeland. This belief predates European contact by centuries and has remained unchanged across all Maori iwi. Multiple lighthouse keepers over the decades requested transfers after short postings. Their reports describe not fear, but an inability to rest, a sense of constant, purposeful movement around them that made stillness feel impossible. Cape Reinga is one of the most visited points in New Zealand. It is also one of the most consistently reported as inexplicably unsettling. Along the South Island coast, near Moeraki, a stretch of beach contains perfectly spherical stones, some over 2 meters in diameter, lying half-buried in the sand as though placed deliberately. They weigh several tons each. They are almost geometrically perfect. The scientific explanation is septarian concretion, minerals accumulating in layers around a central point over millions of years. The process is understood. The result is still deeply strange. The precision of the spherical form on objects this large sits at the outer edge of what the process should produce. The Maori explanation is that the boulders are the remains of eel baskets and gourds washed ashore from the wreck of a great ancestral canoe. The crew who made it to land became the mountains of the interior. The cargo became the boulders on the beach. A creation story that treats these objects as things that arrived from somewhere else, which, in geological terms, they effectively did. Fiordland is the most remote region of New Zealand's South Island, a wilderness of glacially carved fjords, vertical cliffs, and silence so complete that sound seems to behave differently. Beyond Milford Sound, the terrain becomes increasingly difficult, and in the deepest sections has never been surveyed on foot.
In 1948, a ranger named Jeffrey Orbell was working in the Murchison Mountains when he encountered a bird he didn't recognize. Large, flightless, blue-green. He photographed it. The bird was identified as a takahe, formally declared extinct in 1898. 50 years extinct. Still there, hidden in a valley no European had entered. If a bird declared extinct for 50 years was found alive in a valley no one had entered, the question of what else might be in the valleys that still haven't been entered is not fanciful. It is a straightforward extrapolation from documented fact. In traditional Maori society, the Tohunga held knowledge of the spiritual and metaphysical, considered so powerful and dangerous that its transmission was strictly controlled. In 1907, the New Zealand government passed the Tohunga Suppression Act, making it illegal to practice as a Tohunga. The law remained in force until 1962. What the act suppressed was not merely alternative medicine. It suppressed an entire system of knowledge, oral traditions, ritual practices, understanding of the natural and spiritual world, accumulated over 7 centuries of inhabiting these islands. Once the transmission chain was broken, it could not simply be reconstructed. Maori scholars who have worked to recover what was lost describe specific categories of knowledge, particular understandings of certain landscapes, waterways, and natural phenomena, where the chain was permanently severed. What exactly was in those categories and what it described is now unknown. The act didn't just suppress practice. It created permanent gaps in the record of what these islands were understood to contain. Larnac Castle stands on the Otago Peninsula outside Dunedin. Built in 1871 by William Larnac, a banker and politician of considerable wealth. It took 200 workers 3 years to build. It is the only castle in New Zealand. William Larnac's life unraveled completely. Business reversals, political disgrace. In 1898, he was found in a parliamentary committee room. The circumstances of his passing were never fully explained to the public's satisfaction. The castle was sold, changed hands repeatedly, and fell into disrepair until the Barker family purchased it in 1967 and began restoration. What the Barker family also inherited were the reports. Staff who refused to work in certain rooms after dark,
Guests who described a woman moving through the corridors at night, seen clearly, described consistently by people with no prior knowledge of the castle's history. Cold spots in specific rooms that persist regardless of season. Objects moved between one inspection and the next with no explanation. The reports have not diminished as the castle has become more visited. The accumulation of consistent, independent accounts has made them harder, not easier, to dismiss. 8 stories. 8 places on the map of 2 islands. The caves are still there. The boulders are still on the beach. The lake still rises and falls every 5 minutes. The castle still stands on its peninsula above the harbor. New Zealand was the last place on Earth that humans reached. It has had less time than anywhere else to accumulate its mysteries. Somehow that hasn't slowed it down at all.